So a couple of weeks ago, I got home on a Sunday night around 7 o'clock from a conference that I had been at all weekend. I had been from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for 3 days in a row, and I finally get home on Sunday night and I am starving because I had not eaten all day. I walk in the front door and I see my husband, his name is Rob, and I see Rob standing there and he's about to go to bed. And I said, Rob, wait a minute, I have to eat and then I have to shower before you go to bed. So can you just hold on for a minute? And so we ended up getting into this huge fight about showering and eating. Here's what happened. Rob said, you know that I'm about to go to bed. I can't sleep if you're in the bathroom taking a shower. So you need to shower before you eat. And I'm sitting over here thinking about everything that I have done this past weekend. And literally the thoughts going through my head are, how selfish are you that you won't let me eat? That you are telling me I need to shower before I can eat. And I couldn't handle it. We ended up getting into a terrible fight. And here's what I realized later. I realized that we both were in a situation where each of us were just looking at our own interest. He was in a situation where he was about to go to bed, even though it was only 7 o'clock at night. He was going to bed early. He wanted to get a good night's sleep. For his job, he has to wake up early. And I was in a situation where I was thinking about everything I had done and how I was feeling, and neither of us were choosing to stop and see it from the other person's perspective. Instead, what we did is we chose to react. That whole huge fight that we got into could have been avoided had either of us stopped and chosen to see things from the other point of view. My name's Kimberly Holmes. I'm the CEO of Marriage Helper, and you may be thinking, but you still have marriage problems because you just told us about how you and your husband got in a huge fight just a couple of weeks ago. And yes, that's true, but it's because no matter how much you're going to invest and work on and improve your marriage, no marriage is ever going to be perfect. What makes the difference is acknowledging when you mess up, realizing how you could have done it better, and fixing it going forward. And here's the thing. I realized not too soon after Rob went to bed, I realized I could have handled that better, because even if he reacted in a way that I could have viewed as selfish, that I could have seen as he's not thinking about me, I still could have chosen to react in the way that was best for the situation. You see, his actions don't have to determine my reactions. And if you're watching this video, you're thinking, what does this have to do with me going through a divorce? Because here's what we begin to realize. It's daily occurrences that happen in our marriage, like the one that happened with me and Rob. It's those things that start happening day after day after day, which then lead to bigger things, which then lead to bigger things, which then can lead to separation, to fights that never end, to talks about divorce, to filing for divorce. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that happens after a period of the same type of interactions, the same kind of disrespect, the same kind of fights, the same kind of choosing not to listen to each other. You understand. You get it. But a lot of times what happens when our spouse files for divorce is we react. Just like I did in my fight with Rob when that happened. When he reacted the way he did, I reacted back. I wasn't being proactive. I didn't stop myself and think about a better way to handle it. I was completely reacting from my own emotions happening at that time. And so many times when our spouse files for divorce, we have the same reaction. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be hurt, that you shouldn't cry about it. All of those things are natural reactions and they're going to happen, but here's most of the time what happens. When a spouse files for divorce, in the next day, week, month, many months that follow that occurrence, we react. Everything that comes across our plate, everything that they say to us, every interaction that we have with the spouse that filed for divorce from that point forward ends up being us reacting back to them, us telling them how hurt we are by what they've done, us not knowing how to manage our emotions. And so we end up trying to punish them, trying to make them feel guilty, trying to give them a taste of their own medicine for what they have done. And what we're doing is we're living in the past. We're living in the fact that they filed for divorce. And we're not being proactive in seeing forward into the future of saying to ourselves, yes, they filed for divorce, but that was an instance. That was an event that occurred a week ago, a month ago. But there's hope for the future. This doesn't have to end in divorce. And because there's hope for the future, I'm going to choose to start thinking about things differently. I'm not going to choose to focus on that being my final destiny. I'm not going to choose to ruminate all my thoughts about the fact that there's a divorce that's been filed for. I'm going to choose to think differently. Our thoughts determine our actions. If I choose to see my husband as mean or as selfish or evil, whatever it might be, then the way that I treat him is going to be based on that. We have the power to think differently, to change our mind, to see things differently for our future, and to have a different future. What do I mean by that? You might be thinking, they filed for divorce. What am I supposed to see as a light to the end of this tunnel? Here's the thing, people file for divorce all the time. And just because a person files for divorce doesn't mean that the divorce has to go through or will go through. But what's going to make the difference is how you handle it during this time. If you continue to make your spouse feel guilty, to always bring it up to your spouse, to try and give them a taste of their own medicine, then it's only going to show your spouse or prove to your spouse, so to say, that they've made the right decision. What you want to do is to change their mind. To change their mind, you probably need to change your mind. So, quick tip number one for what to do when your spouse files for divorce is, number one, don't react. In the moment, you may not be able to help it, but for the next days, months, weeks that follow it, you can control how you react to your spouse. We have more videos that talk about that here on our YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe and be sure to look for those videos that we call smart contact. Look up, how do I handle when my spouse is separated from me? Look up smart contact. We talk more about how you can do that in some other videos. But quick tip number two is this: work on yourself. So during this time, as your spouse has filed for divorce and maybe you're separated either physically or relationally, if you're living in the same home, you're still separated and you're thinking, what can I do? Because all I'm doing is ruminating on this event that has happened, on this divorce that's been filed for, and all I'm doing is worrying about the future. And we already know that's not what you want to do. What you want to do is focus on how you can change the future, how you can make the future better. And here's the truth of the matter. You can't control your spouse. You can't. You can't force your spouse to change. You can't force them to tear up the divorce papers. You can't force them to fall back in love with you. But there's one thing you can control, one person you can control, and that's you. No matter what happened that led you to this point of where you are now, whether it was what your spouse did or something you've done or a combination of just years of things that have happened, that's not what we're going to focus on now, because you can always work on yourself. You can always work on making yourself the best version of you that you can be. And at Marriage Helper, we call that the pies. Physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual are what those stand for. Physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. And all of those things, those four things, are what make up attraction. Attraction is how we first fell in love with our spouse back when we were dating. Maybe we were attracted to them physically. Intellectually, we were attracted to them because we could talk about things. We had similar interests. We enjoyed having a conversation with them. Emotionally, we liked the way that they made us feel. It's a huge part of attraction. And spiritually, we believed in the same beliefs and values. We admired the beliefs and values that they had, and they felt that way about us. There's these four different areas of attraction, which are all way more than just the physical part of attraction that people like to focus on. There's the intellectual, the emotional, the spiritual parts of attraction. And when you focus on becoming your best self in each of those four areas, then you are doing the best thing you can for you, no matter what happens in the future of your marriage. You're becoming the best you can physically. You're growing your mind and expanding intellectually. You're becoming an emotionally safe place that people like to be around. You're evoking emotions in other people that they enjoy feeling. And spiritually, you're becoming the kind of person that does what you say. You're becoming a person of integrity. You have high character, and people are drawn to that. So when you work on these things, you do it first of all for you. But that secondary benefit is that if anything works to bring your spouse back, this will. This is one of the fundamental things that we teach at Marriage Helper, to work on your pies. We have more videos on that on our YouTube channel. You can search for that or go to our website and learn more about how you can work on your pies. And then quick tip number 3 for what to do when your spouse is filed for divorce is find a good support system. You can go to your parents, to your sister, to your brother, to your best friends, to your pastors, to the people who hate to see you hurting, and they're probably going to tell you to move on. And while we don't want you to hurt either at Marriage Helper, we also know that there is hope for your marriage no matter what situation your marriage has gone through. No matter how desperate or dire or crazy or hopeless it may seem, you're not going to tell us anything at Marriage Helper that we haven't heard. I promise you that. And we believe that there's hope for absolutely every marriage situation because we have seen thousands and thousands and thousands of marriages saved. From situations where their counselors told them to divorce, where their pastors told them to divorce, where there's been affairs that have happened for years, where there's been people divorced for a decade, we have still seen those marriages saved. And so I believe that there is hope for your marriage. With every fiber of my being, I believe that there is hope for your marriage, but you have got to find the right support system. Because if you are listening to the wrong people, then you're going to give up hope. And I don't want you to give up hope. At Marriage Helper, we offer some solutions, some recommendations, some communities that you can be a part of that'll give you that support system, that will guide you in the right steps, that will encourage you when you need encouraging, that will cry with you when you need to cry, and that will celebrate with you when you have amazing victories that come in your marriage. We have an online course called the Save My Marriage course, which is an amazing community for people just like you, who they want to make their marriage work, but their spouse has been completely disengaged. And we see amazing things happen in the people who go through that course and are a part of that community every single day. If you want more information about that, then you can go to your.marriagehelper.com/savemymarriage. You can find out more information there, or you can always call our office at 866-903-0990. We have a team of real people who can talk to you, who can answer your questions. We care, and we're really here to help you with anything that you might be going through. We believe there's hope for your marriage. With these 3 quick tips that you can use as you're going through this process, I hope that you implement them. I hope that you can get to a place where you're not reacting. I hope that you can get to a place where you're working on your pies. And I hope that you can get to a place where you have an amazing support system around you. However we can help you in that, we would love to.